I'm happy to bring up on the stage Alan Austin, who is the managing director of the LiteCoin Foundation, and he's going to be asking exciting questions for Charlie, who is beaming in virtually to join us. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. There we go. Welcome. Good morning, everyone. Yes, my name is Alan Austin. I'm the managing director at LiteCoin Foundation. We are privileged to have Charlie Lee with us today. In my opinion, one of the most underrated people in crypto, not just for his contribution in LiteCoin, but for all the contributions he's done towards Bitcoin and crypto since the early days. So warm welcome, Charlie. Thank you for taking the time to be here. I know it's probably really late where you're at. And can you hear us okay?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, yeah. Just a quick disclosure. So I've had someone who's had the opportunity to work with Charlie for many years. I can tell you, for those of you who know him, he's a very humble person, a genuinely nice guy, and he has a pretty good sense of humor. And I'm not just saying that because payroll is up in like 3 days. So with that, let's get started. First off, Charlie, thank you for being here, and congratulations on 12 years running. And 12 years running at zero downtime. If that's not a statement, it's a proof of work. I'm not sure what is.
Thanks, and that's thanks to Satoshi, not my doing, I would say.
Well, when you first created LiteCoin, I know that you even said yourself you did it as more of an experiment. Of course, it was, back then we didn't really know what was going to happen. Here we are 12 years later. LiteCoin is like only one of 4 cryptos on PayPal. One of 4 cryptos on Venmo. There's a Grayscale LiteCoin Trust. It's on across every major exchange, highly liquid. It's leading along with Bitcoin in terms of payment use on BitPay, one of the largest payment processors in all of crypto. I mean, it's come a long way from just an experiment to like a serious coin. So I guess my first question is, how does that feel to kind of watch it go from sort of a baby and kind of experiment to the real deal? And has there been any challenges along the way, or kind of a different sort of looking at it differently that you've had to kind of take a step back and do things differently with?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of totally unexpected. I kind of created LiteCoin just for fun. Didn't really expect much from it. In terms of challenges along the way, I think initially, as you know, it's a proof of work coin, so the miners were kind of the initial users. So the real important thing is to kind of be a coin where miners are interested in mining. And LiteCoin, I would say, had a few lucky breaks. So one was when, so LiteCoin was launched as a CPU mining coin. People who were mining Bitcoin on GPUs can also mine LiteCoin on their computer at the same time. And because it's a CPU coin, it attracted a lot of new people into mining LiteCoin because it's easy to mine. You don't have to buy a graphics card. And the lucky break was that when Bitcoin became ASIC mineable, it was basically the same time that LiteCoin became GPU mineable. Someone figured out how to program a GPU to mine LiteCoin, and pretty much all the GPUs that were previously mining Bitcoin turned to mining LiteCoin. So the Bitcoin mining community became the new LiteCoin mining community, and that helped the coin become more and more popular because of the big mining community. And I would say the second lucky break was that, well, when I launched LiteCoin, I called it silver to Bitcoin's gold, and that really resonated with people, and that really helped kind of the narrative. It became kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, people believing that LiteCoin is silver to Bitcoin's gold, so people started using LiteCoin. And it kind of also took off in China, which was really big in 2012, 2013 timeframe. In China, there was a saying, basically the saying was bit gold, light silver. And that kind of resonated with people, and that helped kind of made LiteCoin the top 2 cryptocurrency in all the Chinese exchanges, like Huobi, OKCoin, and BTCC. And that really helped kind of LiteCoin take off also. So yeah, I would say Litecoin had caught a few breaks and became huge.
Yeah, sounds like some good timing along the way as well. You know, looking now, we've had 12 years watching the crypto space, proof of work. What has worked, clearly what hasn't worked in terms of projects that have failed, whether they're built on poor fundamentals or anything else. Is there anything that you feel that maybe you would tweak differently, maybe slightly differently in terms of confirmation times, maybe difficulty adjustments or anything else? Or do you feel that the way it is right now is ideal for you know, looking into the future?
Well, it's hard to say what's ideal in terms of like the confirmation times. There's always trade-offs, right? There's a trade-off between being fast versus just being more secure. So in terms of what I would have done differently, well, I guess one thing that I did work on is adding MWeb, which added fungibility and privacy to Litecoin, which is one of the features of good sound money that was missing. So that's one thing that I would have done differently, and I did work on that eventually. But I think I should have started working on that sooner. Let's see, anything else? Not really. I mean, it's been super successful, more successful than I could have ever imagined. So.
And on MWeb, I do want to we'll come to that in a moment because that's an important topic. In fact, kind of lead into that with, basically I just want to talk about money in general in terms of cryptocurrency, right? So money, you know, the two primary functions of money are a store of value and a medium of exchange. One of the things that we will often see in crypto is this HODL mentality where you don't have to spend it. It's okay to hold it, you know, take it to your grave, some people say. But unless we start spending it, we're at the mercy. We have this umbilical cord tied to the fiat system, and we're at the mercy of on-ramps and off-ramps with banks. And one of the things we've seen over the last year, you know, or so is a lot of these banks shutting down, certainly business crypto-related accounts. Just yesterday, I believe it was, Chase UK announced that they're going to restrict cryptocurrency withdrawals. And unless we have this system, you know, full circle system where everybody could spend crypto, we're always going to be subject to those regulatory and things that are outside of our control. So my question is, how important is using crypto as a medium of exchange today and doing that, kind of getting to that place sooner than later and not just having this hodl mentality?
Well, the important thing about like good money is that people can use it however they want, right? It's good for store value and also good for a medium exchange. So ideally for money, you don't want your money to be inflated way over time, right? If you put your money under your mattress, 10 years later, it should have the same purchasing power as 10 years ago. So that's what having a fixed monetary supply would help in terms of Bitcoin and Litecoin versus fiat currency. But you're right, though. If people don't accept it, if it's not accepted everywhere, then it's not good money, right? If you have to exchange your money for another currency just to spend it, then it's not a great form of money. And that's something that we're kind of working towards, right? Bitcoin and Litecoin are becoming more and more accepted everywhere. And unfortunately, it's not accepted everywhere today. So, for example, like Litecoin Foundation, we lost our bank recently due to the situation in the U.S. right now, and it made it really hard for us to function without a bank account. Ideally, as a foundation for cryptocurrency, we should be able to earn money in Litecoin and Bitcoin and spend Litecoin and Bitcoin for everything we need to do without ever having to convert it to US dollar or even needing a bank, right? We can be our own bank. Unfortunately, that is not the case today. So I think eventually we'll get there, but for now, we just have to deal with the on-ramps and off-ramps and try to make do with what we have. But I'm hoping eventually we'll be able to live in a society where you can keep your money in cryptocurrency and never have to move over to fiat if you don't want to.
Yeah, there'd certainly be a lot less panic once you could spend your crypto, the vendor that's taking that crypto can then buy their supplies, and it's kind of everybody can use crypto that needs to within that whole process. Along the lines of money, I do want to touch on privacy. So, and you mentioned MWeb. So maybe, and I'll let you kind of maybe give an explanation. So LiteCoin added a basic layer of privacy just recently, which the community felt was missing to being like perfect money, being sound money. Maybe you just touch on what MWeb does. Maybe start with that and kind of like why that was felt that it was missing and added just recently.
Yeah, so MWeb stands for Mimblewimble Extension Block. It's added as an add-on, as an extension block. So every LiteCoin block has a corresponding extension block that has Mimblewimble transactions in it. The key about Mimblewimble is that all the inputs and outputs are hidden, so are blinded, so that when you send coins to someone else, no one else except for you and the recipient will know how many coins you have and how many coins you sent. And using cryptography, you can still prove that you didn't create coins out of thin air. And the other feature of Mimblewimble is you have cut through, where inputs and outputs can be combined. So looking at a block, you can't really tell which input sent to which output. You just have a huge list of inputs and a huge list of outputs. And that helps preserve fungibility and privacy, I think, which is really important for money. When you spend money, you don't want the whole world to know how much money you have and who you send it to. So I think monetary privacy is quite important for good sound money.
So, and also to add, MWeb is an optional layer, right? And it's not perfect privacy. And you have some people on one hand that say, well, they want full perfect privacy, and other people, they say that they don't need any privacy. Kind of maybe describe the decision to add, where was sort of the balance, and why was it the decision to make it optional and just kind of decide to keep it minimal as far as, the privacy level that's being added?
Yeah, there are a few coins that have much better privacy, and they're all completely private in terms of it's not an option, right? Every transaction is using the privacy feature, whereas for LiteCoin, we decided to make it an optional privacy where you can move coins back and forth between LiteCoin main chain to the extension block. And once you're in the extension block, everything uses the Mimblewimble protocol, so all the inputs and outputs are blinded. And I think it's kind of a trade-off we have to make, right? In terms of if you make something that is fully private, it's not as acceptable by the current regulation environment. So it would make LiteCoin, we wouldn't want LiteCoin to be banned from exchanges or delisted from exchanges. So it's kind of a trade-off we had to make. Ideally, I think it would have been great if we started off even with Bitcoin, we started off having full privacy, but that is not how Bitcoin was started, and we kind of had to make do with what we have. And yeah, so I think it's a good trade-off to add it as a optional extension block layer, where the more people that move to the MWeb side of things, the better it is in terms of privacy and fungibility. And that's what we're working on. We're working on adding MWeb to mobile clients so that more people can start using it.
Do you think, and you mentioned Bitcoin, do you think this is something that Bitcoin would ultimately adopt as well? And do you think that's important for sort of the ultimate long-term success of Bitcoin being money?
I think it would be kind of hard for Bitcoin to adopt something as drastic as MWeb. Bitcoin has privacy added to like second layer. For example, like Lightning has a bit more privacy, and other second layer solutions will have more privacy. I think it is important for Bitcoin to have privacy and fungibility, but I think it will come in other second layer solutions.
And I also think it's important to mention that the level of privacy with MWeb is really along the same level of privacy that we already have today in traditional finance. Is that correct? Meaning, if you go pay with cash or if you go use your credit card, nobody knows how much is in your account. Where they sort of do if you're able to trace, the ledger and your transactions that way. So it's not like we're trying to really do more than that's already out there. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Well, credit cards, banks will know how much you have, and I would say it's more cash-like, where the transaction information is just between you and the recipient, the merchant or whatever, whoever you're sending money to, and it's no one else's business to know how much money you paid for your cup of coffee. So I think in that sense, it makes it more cash-like. And you're right, it's not more private than what we already have today with cash. And yeah.
Okay, that's fair. So let's move to, I want to talk about education real quick. So when you launched LiteCoin, you chose it to be fairly launched. There was no pre-mine. You know, looking back, many of these decisions turned out to be clearly the right decisions. And what that meant is that any LiteCoin that you had owned, you either had to own it via one of two ways. You either had to mine it, or you had to acquire it on the open market. A level playing field, everybody had the same option to do the exact same thing. You didn't have any fair advantage. Yet, at the same time, when you announced several years ago that you'd sold your LiteCoin, it was met with, quite a bit of skepticism. And I guess the first thing is, to me, it's a bit ironic that in a decentralized movement, we would demand like a central sort of figurehead in the space, right? When this whole idea is that we're in a decentralized movement. But I wonder from you, do you think that's just sort of more about where we're at in terms of education right now in the space and people understanding what decentralization actually means? Or do you think it's something else entirely? And just kind of your thoughts there, because when I say that you received a little bit of criticism, that's actually being kind. I think it's definitely less now, but I think there was a lot of heat that you had at the time. So.
Yeah, and that was like 5 years ago. It's been a while. Yeah, so like you said, I launched LiteCoin as fairly as I possibly could, and I acquired my LiteCoin from mining early on. So my only advantage is that I was here at the beginning because I created it. And I bought most of my LiteCoin on exchanges, on BTC and other exchanges, using Bitcoin. Yeah, and I didn't own a lot. And unlike a lot of other coins where they pre-mined, printed like whatever, all the coins and gave most of it to themselves, there's no way for me to really have a lot unless I invest a lot of money, because LiteCoin was not cheap from the get-go, right? It launched it was pretty popular, and it was the price was relatively high for what it is initially. So it's not like I was able to buy a lot of coins anyways. So it is kind of weird that the fact that I announced I sold the coins that I mined and bought myself without any pre-mine, that people would give me crap about it. I didn't actually expect people to give me crap about it because it wasn't pre-mined. Like, I didn't just gift myself millions of LiteCoin. So, and I think this is because people are just used to kind of how the world works today, where companies issue shares and they give shares to insiders, to CEOs, and if the CEO sells all their shares, that means they don't believe in the company, and it's also money that they were kind of given. So it's totally different from how a decentralized cryptocurrency works, and I guess it's hard for people to understand that, and that's something I think over time people will start to understand more and more of how a decentralized currency should work and should be run. Like, my incentive is for LiteCoin to succeed. I don't need to own any LiteCoin for me to keep working on LiteCoin perpetually, and I expect to keep working on it even if I don't have any LiteCoins. It's kind of a project I created and I wanted to succeed. So there's no, yeah, so selling my LiteCoin didn't really affect my incentive. And actually it did the opposite of what I expected. It actually made me want the price to go up even more than before, because I don't want people to keep giving me crap about it. So that's kind of ironic.
Fair enough. So you wouldn't do anything differently then, if you in hindsight.
I would, what I would do differently is I would actually sell it sooner and announce that I've sold it sooner. Yeah, it's something that kind of came to me like all of a sudden, and I just acted on it right away. It should have occurred to me to do it sooner, to kind of make LiteCoin more decentralized in terms of the creator not owning any and not working on it just because he wants to kind of enrich himself.
I think there's a strong argument that the only way that a coin will survive in the long run is to really be in the hands of everyone, right? To be in the hands of many, and to not be reliant on any one or central kind of power, or anybody that has a massive amount, or even looked to as a one person as a kind of a central figure there. I know we're getting short on time. I did want to ask one other question, and hopefully we can take one or two questions. And that topic is merge mining. So a while back, as everybody or most of you may know, Dogecoin and LiteCoin both merge mine. A while back, Dogecoin was in trouble, and you had, I believe, proposed the idea of merge mining for kind of to help because you felt that Dogecoin may not survive at the time. Maybe you talk about, and to this day, they are merge mined together. Maybe just talk briefly about how that's kind of worked out, and what you think, how that might continue to work out in the future.
Yeah, so a little background on this topic. Dogecoin changed the mining reward schedule so that it would have every month or every 2 months. So it became really, really easy for someone to 51% attack it because the difficulty became so low. And they had a few options. They could either do nothing, which would probably be catastrophic for them. They could do merge mining, which means merge the mining network with LiteCoin effectively, so that whoever's mining script can mine both Dogecoin and LiteCoin at the same time. And the third thing they could do is hard fork to change their mining algorithm to something else, because not being dominant in script mining was a problem. So eventually they were convinced that merge mining is the safest and best way forward. So it did require a hard fork to change Dogecoin to merge mine with LiteCoin, but it was a pretty simple hard fork, and the community accepted it. And yeah, from that point onwards, I think that was like 2014 or something like that, 2015. I don't remember the exact date. And then Dogecoin became merge mine with LiteCoin, and the hash rate for Dogecoin effectively was the same as hash rate for LiteCoin, because most of the major mining pools started merge mining Dogecoin as kind of it became an extra income for the mining pool. And yeah, so when I proposed that, I thought Dogecoin was worth saving. It was a kind of a gateway drug to crypto for a lot of people, and it still is. And I didn't want to see it die, so I proposed that they should merge mine with LiteCoin. And I didn't really expect much from it. But what actually did happen was surprising. Dogecoin had a huge pump a couple years ago, and a lot of the LiteCoin miners made a lot of money because of Dogecoin. Like they double, triple the mining rewards, the mining profit from mining script because of Dogecoin. And the interesting thing is that Dogecoin has what you call tail emission. So it doesn't the rewards doesn't get halved anymore. So it will have perpetual reward. And because of merge mining with LiteCoin, it effectively means that LiteCoin also has some form of tail emission because of the Dogecoin mining reward. So over time, this is kind of a new experiment, right? So this is something where LiteCoin and Dogecoin now has a different mining reward schedule than Bitcoin, because it now effectively has tail emission. And there are interesting arguments about whether or not Bitcoin will survive over time, over like the long run, without something like a tail emission, because the mining rewards can get halved into such a small amount that it won't be enough to pay for the security of the network. This is still an experiment for the whole cryptocurrency space, so we'll see how that plays out. But it's going to be like another like 40, 50 years before it actually have any effect. So it likely won't be in my lifetime that we'll see anything to see this play out. It's an interesting experiment to see how Litecoin and Dogecoin merge mining has actually changed Litecoin's kind of mining reward feature. So very interesting.
That will be interesting. Maybe it's fair to say that while Litecoin has sound money, Dogecoin may have sound rewards. I mean, we'll see what happens. Yeah, I do know that I think we're running into a break, so I think it's okay. But I wanted to give time for, how are we doing on time, by the way? I wanted to give time for any questions as well, if anybody had any questions in the audience. How are we doing on time?
Workshop, so.
Oh, we do. I'm sorry. Okay.
Can't.
I didn't know. Okay. Okay. So, okay, great. Well, Charlie, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you for being here. And thanks everyone.